Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack the anatomy of the unprecedented 2026 NEET exam scandal. We're talking about a story of how one of the absolute highest stakes testing systems in the entire world was deeply compromised, ultimately leading to a historic cancellation. We're going to look at the exact mechanics of the breach, the crazy digital trail they left behind, and, most importantly, the immense human cost it took on the students who were caught in the middle. Right, so picture this. It's May 2nd, 2026. The whole thing kicks off with this chillingly casual WhatsApp message. It was sent by a Kerala medical student to his father, who lived in Sikar, Rajasthan. And this single message effectively tipped off the entire massive breach. The father, who happened to operate a PG hostel, actually ignored the message at first. But the very next morning, literally the day of the exam, he decided, hey, I'll distribute the attached document to the students staying at my hostel. After the test wrapped up, he actually went to a nearby coaching institute just to verify if any of the questions from his son's message appeared on the real test. And the results of that check were absolutely staggering. The sheer scale of this leak is mind-blowing. Out of 180 total questions on the NEET exam, a whopping 135 were an exact, word-for-word match to the leaked document floating around on WhatsApp. That means 75% of the entire national examination was compromised before students even walked through the doors of the testing centers. We aren't talking about a few vague hints or general study topics. They had the actual test.
And the copy was brilliantly exact. All 90 biology questions and all 45 chemistry questions matched perfectly. It definitely wasn't just someone relying on their memory to reconstruct the test after seeing it. No way. The punctuation marks, the commas, the full stops, the formatting, everything was 100% identical. This was a direct, literal carbon copy of the physical test paper.
Now, to put that into perspective, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill high school pop quiz. This breach impacted the futures of over 22 lakh, that's 2.2 million aspiring doctors. NEET is India's singular national medical entrance examination. The integrity of this exam is absolutely essential because it literally shapes the careers of the professionals we will eventually entrust with human lives. So a collapse of a system this massive, it has profound, sweeping consequences for the entire country.
Section 1. Tracing the digital trail.
So how did they pull this off? Following the evidence trail, investigators mapped out a highly coordinated supply chain. Step 1. Authorities allege a medical student bought a physical paper from an authorized printing press in Nashik, Maharashtra for 10 lakh rupees. Step 2. To fly under the radar, they used high-definition scanners and hidden data transfer systems to convert that physical paper into a pristine digital version. Step 3. This digital file was then sold onward in Gurgaon for 15 lakh rupees. And finally, Step 4, it was compiled into what was disguised as a guest paper and distributed through coaching contacts and counseling agents to hundreds of students in Rajasthan. In fact, one individual reportedly shared it with over 700 aspirants alone. But honestly, what makes this even more shocking is the timeline. Officials discovered that some students had access to this exact paper nearly a whole month before the exam date. It was actively circulating on WhatsApp weeks in advance. This wasn't some last-minute panic breach the night before. It was a sustained, wide-open leak that existed right under the noses of the authorities for weeks.
Section 2. Accountability and fallout.
Looking at the official reports impartially, investigators focused heavily on two brothers, Manjalal and Dinesh Vajwal, for allegedly purchasing and distributing the papers in Sikar. Reports suggest they allegedly knew of the leak weeks in advance. Now, suspicions deepened significantly because 4 of their family members had successfully cleared NEET just the previous year. Furthermore, one brother's reported association with a political youth wing and widely circulated photos showing him with senior political figures like Rajasthan's Education Minister Madan Dilawar have drawn political scrutiny into the CBI's mapping of the network as they try to understand the full, unbiased scope of how this happened. In the immediate aftermath, while there was a really sharp contrast in reality, the National Testing Agency initially denied that a full leak had occurred at all, despite the overwhelming evidence piling up. And you can imagine, this denial fueled immense public backlash. Frustrated citizens actually started mockingly renaming the NTA the National Tampering Agency online, especially when those 135 questions were definitively proven to be an exact match. Critics were incredibly quick to point out the timeline here, arguing that the lack of systemic reforms following the previous 2024 NEET controversy directly paved the way for this 2026 disaster. Remember, just 2 years prior, in 2024, the exam faced leaked papers, totally unexplained grace marks, unusually high scores, and protests that were so intense they required Supreme Court intervention. So people are looking at this timeline and asking the obvious question: why, after such a massive wake-up call in 2024, did the system remain vulnerable enough for an even larger breach to happen in 2026? Ultimately, the pressure just reached a breaking point. Initially, local police in Sikar allegedly dismissed early complaints about the leak as mere rumors. But as the sheer volume of evidence grew, the NTA finally bowed to the pressure. On May 12, they officially canceled the exam entirely, which is a historic first, and handed the entire investigation over to the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI. They also announced a massive re-examination, clarifying that students thankfully wouldn't need to pay additional fees to retake it.
Section 3. Beyond a single path. Let's talk about the human cost. Just imagine the incredible burnout these students faced. I mean, they spent an entire year preparing intensely, sacrificing their sleep, their social lives, and their mental well-being just to clear this single hurdle. Then they took the test, breathed a massive sigh of relief, and some even sold off their study materials thinking it was finally over, only to face the devastating shock of a sudden cancellation. They had to mentally gear up to retake the exam months later, resulting in a massive emotional and financial whiplash for families across the entire country. Which brings us to a really vital life lesson from this explainer. Never depend entirely on a single path, because when massive, rigid systems fail, and as we've seen they sometimes do, having alternative career options provides incredible stability. Examinations do not define an entire life. Success today can be found in dynamic, amazing fields like data science, UX design, sustainability, content creation, sports analytics, or climate research. Building adaptable skills ensures that your entire future isn't derailed by a single institutional failure.
So to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought to mull over. The focus shouldn't just be on achieving success in one specific high-pressure arena. Systemic accountability from our institutions is absolutely crucial, yes, but looking inwardly, in an unpredictable world, are you banking on a single high-stakes path, or are you actively building an adaptable future? Thank you so much for exploring this with me, and I really hope this gives you a much clearer understanding of not just what happened with the 2026 NEET breach, but why it truly matters